Concluding arguments. So we come to the end of this article, and we need to now take stock of the whole article in see what it means in a nutshell. We also need to see not just what the article says or has said, but we also need to see where are we now in our today's situation. Well, the role of L1 and in L2 classrooms is very much contested. It is still very much there. And if we want to look at the specific conditions in our classrooms where we teach English, for instance, as a second language, you have these private elite schools where they simply do not allow any other language other than the second language they are using. They try to stamp down any use of Urdu or regional language is completely out of question. They try to stamp them out in the not only in English classrooms but also outside in breaks and whatever. Then you have these other private schools which are not so expensive, in which the teachers struggle to teach English language without the use of the L1 because they are officially asked not to use it, but however they find themselves actually using quite a lot of L1 in the English classrooms. So we see that they use quite some Urdu. And then you end up with this Urdu in government schools, which we also call Urdu medium schools. Now the government is trying to do something about them, trying to introduce English language as a medium of instruction. However, in any case, in English classrooms, you find these teachers mostly actually using Urdu with no use of the second language at all, almost negligible, and they try to use the whole book almost in Urdu. Well, it is a subject of debate and researchers regarding does the use of L1 help or not help in the learning process. One thing is for sure that exclusive use of Urdu to teach in English text, and especially when the goal is the teaching of the second language, will not help at all. So when we are talking about what the paper is saying, I would like to say that again and assert it, emphasize it, that we are talking about judicious role and planned use of first language in the second language classrooms along with other communicative language teaching, which is strongly emphasized. Now, what does this paper do? The paper actually challenges the assumptions on which these private schools actually totally ban the use of L1 in L2 classrooms. The paper argues that this is based on the assumption as if the habit of using L1 will interfere with the habit of learning L2 and it needs to be put a stop to. So it tries to look at the whole issue analytically and objectively through two different theoretical perspectives. Remember, when we talk about theories have a stronger validity because then they explain how learning actually happens in a systematic way. So it uses two different theories, one theory of learning and the other theory of teaching, sociocultural theory and language awareness theory, and it tries to see where we are going and what do they actually say. Before that, the paper actually presents some debates since 1950s, looks at the research, and also tries to trace how there has been a gradual shift from about this consideration of the role of L1 from being considered as a major interference to a gradual shift towards acknowledgement of its positive role. So it also argued that if we look at the thing, it's at the issue from these two theoretical perspectives, we can say that L1 has the potential of being positively exploited for the use of learning the second language, but its use needs to be planned and it has to be systematic. So we are not saying teach English language in Urdu. We are saying teach it with language awareness pedagogy. So it's a specific kind of teaching, like you have this task-based teaching, communicative language teaching. It's a specific type of teaching and it also has its boundaries. So within its boundaries, we can say that the role of L1 is constructive, both in sociocultural theory of learning and in teaching theory, and it is helpful. We summed it up that it is helpful in the domain of affective domain, cognitive domain, social domain, power and performance domain. By domain, I mean different dimensions. So in all these dimensions, the role of L1 can be positively exploited, but it needs to be exploited systematically and in a knowledgeable way. So it does not mean that when a teacher, English language teacher, is teaching and she constantly shifts to Urdu because she herself is not proficient, that does not really help the teaching of the second language.